What's up, guys? I'm Chris Bauerfeind. I'm a long snapper here at UCF, and I'm going to be making a little playlist of how to long snap, and this is really going to be my tips and tricks, and I'm going to take you through every single step from your grip to your foot positioning to your stance to your follow through. So if you're learning how to long snap, or maybe you just want to pick up some tricks, maybe you're having some trouble, have a little sticking point somewhere, check out the playlist. I'm going to put it on the side. I'm going to put all the videos kind of in order. Yeah, like, subscribe, and let's get going. All right, so the first thing that's fundamental for long snapping is your grip and how you hold the ball with your hands. Some of you that have seen on TikTok, I made a kind of condensed version of my grip video, and so I'm going to go a little more in depth here if I can. So I'm left-handed, so everything keep in mind I'm left-handed. If you're right-handed, just flip it for your hands, nothing too crazy. I hold the ball like this. Same way I was going to throw it overhand if I was just playing catch with somebody. It's the same grip with my dominant hand. So I keep my index finger kind of here on this lace, and then this ring finger, the second lace in. And then for my offhand, what I kind of do is I line up my forearm here down the line, and I have my index finger just off of this seam here. So this seam generally is a rule of thumb they want to say is pointing back at your shoulder. And so I have that in that spot, and then I have my index finger going straight down my forearm to kind of give me a clean line as I'm coming out. So I wanted to give you a little different angle, a little more up close angle. So here's my dominant hand. My left hand is on the laces like that. And then my offhand is here. So I have my index finger. The seam is right there. So my index finger isn't on the seam, it's slightly off the seam. And then I have kind of the tip of my index finger is almost touching that middle seam. But then it's just a slight angle coming down here. So when I'm in position, I'm like this. So this is just straight line down. And so when I release out, I'm gonna be able to get a clean flick coming out of my hands. So I noticed that one thing that people don't talk about when they talk about their grip is where to put their weight placement. So really all the pressure is in my fingertips, right? I have a bit of pressure here along this C, so I kind of have this C is pretty tight, but the rest of my hand is loose. You see I have the gap there in my dominant hand, and then with my offhand, it's the same deal. I have a gap where my palm is here, and the pressure is in my fingertips. I can hold the ball by itself this way. When you're long snapping, it's an even process with your hands. So your hands have to have even pressure coming through, and therefore they have to have an even amount of pressure in the grip themselves. So if you can hold it like this, you have enough pressure. If you're barely just holding on, that's usually not going to be enough. But like I said, everybody's going to be different when it comes to long snapping. For some people, their offhand's going to be in the middle. Some people, their hand's going to be like this, down farther on the ball. It's really a preference thing. And so you just need to keep that in mind. If this method itself does not feel comfortable, feel right for you, then play around and find something that does work. And I just wanted to go slightly more in depth on what I meant when I said that it's different for everybody. For example, some people throw normal football like this. That's okay. If you're more comfortable throwing a football like this, or throwing a football like this, or throwing it like that, whatever works for you, whatever's comfortable. Long snapping is a very personal, process, and how you figure out what works for you. So everything in these videos, remember, it's stuff that works for me. So I'm not saying it's going to work for you. For example, I played around with my offhand. My offhand used to be, down the middle of the seam here, and then I had moved it over to on the seam, and now I've settled in this spot where it's slightly off the seam. Just play around with it, and you'll find something that works for you. And so one little tip that I figured out as I'm long snapping is to keep my thumbs parallel. And what I mean by that, see if I can get closer here. What I mean by that is when these are on, you see how my thumbs are in parallel with each other? So they're not like this, they're not like this, they're not like that. They're in straight line, they're in parallel. And when I release, that means the pressure off of my thumbs is coming out at the same time. And so I feel like that has helped me at least come to a more consistent, cleaner spiral. And then also releasing off of your fingertips. So in combination, if I have my parallel thumbs and releasing off of my fingertips, I'm gonna get a flick out, and the last thing that should be touching the ball is your index finger on both fingers. So it's kind of, I'm just going to throw the ball here and see if you can try to see it. It's kind of like a flick out that way. And you can see how the release was the last thing off my index finger. And then my thumbs, since they were parallel, made sure that the meat of the ball stayed even as it went through. Now, if you just watch me flick that out and you're freaking out like, oh my gosh, what just happened? How did we get there from, just holding a football? Don't worry, we're going to go over that. I just kind of wanted to see if I could get a visual example of the ball coming out in a flicking motion, and so you can see how the fingertips came off. But that's going to be the end of this grip video. If you have any comments, leave them down below, any questions, and I'll try to address it in a later video. And thank you for watching.